Welcome to Perfect Word Media. Welcome. It is October the 3rd, 2024, and the time is 2:16 p.m. Thursday, Central Standard Time, USA. Welcome. We have a special video for you today. And I'll just turn it over. This man's in control of this video right here, not me. But I'm going to answer some questions for the record. Here we go. I don't know if you need that or not. Yeah.
I don't think so. Can we hear?
Okay. Anyway.
Okay. How's this?
Anyway.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, my name is Robert Royce. I'm a licensed private investigator, and I work out of Alabama, Georgia, California, and Arizona. And I came here to have this interview, this meeting, to get a better understanding of the local government and the procedures that are going on in the Marshall County area. And hopefully at the end of this video, I will have a much better understanding about the system, how they work, and the processes here. So that's going to be the goal.
Thank you. Welcome. This is my first time to meet you. And you have heard about Eugenia's Justice, and YouTube is a powerful force for good. So welcome, and again, this man's in control of this video. We have King Sonny with us today, and as you know, he is a living ear witness to the fact that the Marshall County officials attempted to entrap me in numerous felony entrapment exercises in order to rob my mother, Eugenia Rogers Johnson Collins. And she signs her federal civil rights criminal disaster cases as Eugenia R. Collins. She is nearly 85 as of November 21st. She was born in 1939, and she'll turn 85. Why is that significant? Well, according to a Google search, when you turn 85 and up is a special category. You're no longer just elderly. You are in the category known as the oldest of the old. So just to understand, I'm fighting for my mother's life, and it's real easy to fight when you're fighting for your mother. I just want to say that. I know that King Sonny lost his mother. When did you lose your mother, King Sonny?
99.
Mothers are special people. And I promise you, if you threaten to harm any of these officials, that be the judges, the lawyers, the bankers, or the law enforcement officers that have attacked us, and currently it's about a half dozen. I'm not saying the whole system's corrupt, and I have had numerous police officers talk to me about this case. They're watching the videos, and they know that what I'm saying is true. They know that every word I say is true. And I corrected, if I may, a misunderstanding with one officer recently where he thought I was speaking a half-truth, but I convinced him that I didn't know that the party that had made some accusations against him had then been arrested herself for the false charges she filed against him. I just didn't know, and evidently it didn't make the paper. And that is Captain David Atwell. He was arrested for, in essence, attempted murder after hours in an argument with a female. And he was eventually exonerated after he almost lost his job and was put on administrative leave as a police officer. And then the lady that made the charges was arrested and convicted for filing a felony false police report. So again, he thought that I knew that. He assumed I might know that, and I wasn't telling that part about it. And now he realizes, no, I didn't know. And when I do realize that more information needs to be out there in the public consciousness, I'll set the record straight. And that's what I assured him. So this is the very first video since that conversation. And just know the truth stands. Takes time, but the truth stands.
So what I'd like to do is get started, and I want to get a good understanding of the local justice system here and a little bit about the federal system that handles this particular area, but mainly concentrating on the local. So here in Marshall County, how many judges are there?
Okay, first of all, it's the 4th district in Alabama federally.
Okay.
So, for example, our Congressman Adderholt, is in the 4th district. All of our federal cases are in the 4th district. The Hugo L. Black Federal Courthouse, I say that's the epicenter for the civil rights. That's the civil rights epicenter for planet Earth. Why? Martin Luther King wrote the letter from the Birmingham jail. And there is a, in essence, multi-billion-dollar FBI headquarters facility for Alabama, just a few blocks from the Hugo L. Black Federal Courthouse. So it's worth your time to see those historic sites. It's about human rights and civil rights. And what's the difference? Human rights are given by our Creator, and civil rights are given by human beings.
Now let's talk
But
about
anyway, how many judges?
Yes.
I'm going to go with a half dozen.
in the local.
In our story, there are 5 corrupt judges that have all signed illegal judgments. We have dealt with a couple of other judges, but they didn't commit a crime, like Judge Abel.
But totally
But
in this
as far as corrupt, there are a total of 5 judges in a county that's 5-0. The number for Marshall County is 5-0, county number 5-0.
and they have 5 judges.
To my knowledge, they have, I know there's a corrupt district judge, Mitch Floyd, a corrupt circuit court judge that is the senior judge, Timothy Francis Riley. He committed I say felony crime. 2 attorneys said it's not legally possible. He signed a zero restitution order against my mother when she had $40,000 stolen from her, and that occurred when the Supreme Court ruling was released that exposed the corruption of Marshall County. In the Supreme Court of Alabama, with a unanimous verdict, a final judgment order, and it was unanimous, and that's case number 105-1726, Federal Credit Inc. versus Greg Fuller. But I don't really know how many judges there are total. I
Now,
just know there are 5 in our case.
Okay, in your case, in Judge Floyd and Judge Riley,
Yes.
is it considered superior court?
That's considered Marshall County Courthouse. And you got Riley as the senior circuit court judge. And then you have Floyd as the district court judge.
And what
A
about
lower court that deals with, property evictions and small claims. I think it goes up to $20,000.
what about Judge Abel?
Judge Abel, he's a circuit court judge. I believe he is a circuit court judge. And frankly, ain't got no dirt on Abel. I mean, he's never offended me.
And also, there's a fairly new district attorney in this county,
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Miss Bray.
Jennifer Bray. God save Jennifer Bray's honorable court. The first female district attorney for Marshall County, Alabama. And it's about
Now,
darn time.
now my
Because
understanding-
it's white supremacy we fight, and that's white male white supremacy, and she'll have no part of that.
my understanding is she came from the public defender's office to the prosecutor's office. The Attorney General for Alabama was the prosecutor in Marshall County. When he took the job as the Attorney General, he had her appointed as the district attorney. Is that correct?
That is correct. May I add, I've only heard good things about District Attorney Jennifer Bray. I have heard numerous criminal allegations, even in Montgomery, even in Huntsville. These are both by lawyers, numerous lawyers in Huntsville and one lawyer in Montgomery that know Steve Marshall has committed crimes, as he was duly sworn and on official duty, both as the District Attorney of Marshall County and as the Attorney General of Alabama. I ask the good people of the world to keep Attorney General Steve Marshall in your prayers. And I want you to know something. The internet is a game changer, okay? And recently, I'll say a year ago, maybe a year and a half, I read where in a town hall meeting, a lady asked Steve Marshall what his position was on the fact that the U.S. Department of Justice had deemed Alabama's prison system the single most dangerous state prison system in our nation, due primarily to underfunding and understaffing. And in round numbers, it was something like the Alabama Department of Corrections needed 3,500 correctional officers, and they didn't even have 1,000. Something like that. But it's a staffing issue, and it's a sanitation issue. And the U.S. attorney that was releasing his findings publicly said that the Alabama Department of Corrections prison system is not fit for human habitation. It's not fit for human habitation. Now, in this town hall meeting, Steve Marshall's reply, Attorney General Steve Marshall's reply was, in essence, I'm not worried about it. It took the feds 15 years to intervene in California's prison overcrowding issues, so I'm not worried about it. And you can Google that, you can read that article. I'm giving you the sentiment of it, not the verbatim. So there's no need to text or message or scream at me that he didn't say that. That's what he said. It's just not in those exact words. But he said it took 15 years for the feds to intervene in California, and in essence, he wasn't worried about it. And people are being hurt and killed. And frankly, I went to high school with a young man that was released from prison early to die. His family was all excited for his early release. His name was Chris Lowry. He did commit a heinous crime. He was intoxicated when he killed his father. Yet, he was released to die, and he had contracted a deadly strain of hepatitis in this filthy, nasty, drug-infested, violent Alabama Department of Corrections prison system. He was released, and within 9 months, he was dead. He turned yellow, jaundice. It's like having yellow urine in your blood, and his family had no idea they had released him to die. And he died of hepatitis, where he just went completely jaundiced, turned yellow, and his liver poisoned him to death, and he died. And I went to his funeral and found out that he had contracted hepatitis in Alabama prison.
I want to ask you about Judge Floyd. How long, to your knowledge, has he been a judge here?
You know, as far as I can remember, we moved here in 2000. We've been here 25 years, not so much as a speeding ticket. And he's always been the judge. And he's always, up until recently, when Sheriff Sims was unfortunately elected on, I think it was November 3rd or 5th, 2018, he immediately began bragging that Sheriff Sims, that he would harm us and steal our property. We now know that Super Target was had targeted in a good way right across the property right across from us, where they're going to drop, in essence, will go with $500 million in real estate development. So it created this theft scheme against us by the county, and Mitch Floyd just turned on us. He won't properly adjudicate our cases.
Did you have any cases in front of him?
Yes, years ago, everything, you know, most people that we have dealt with in the past, they knew they were guilty of any type of action we filed against them. So most were served and didn't show up. So most of the judgments he signed were by default. But now, even if the defendants don't show up, Judge Floyd, in essence, becomes their defense attorney and will dismiss the case. He just doesn't want us to be victorious in any Marshall County case. I think he's been told not to allow us to be victorious in a court case. He's completely turned on us.
Okay. So
when he used to work with us, and we're talking hundreds of cases. I just want to say something about Judge Floyd, please. It's unusual, but I want you to understand this. In Alabama, if you've got 23 finance offices, which we did, until Marshall County's political tyranny, this corrupt criminal tyranny, bankrupted us out of revenge for their $5 million extortion scheme in the Supreme Court. When we had 23 finance offices, we were filing all the court cases for the whole 23 office conglomerate through this one home office. And you can do that in Alabama. If someone owes you money in an office in Huntsville, you can file it in Marshall County and they will transfer it to Huntsville. So he was handling hundreds, if not thousands, of small claims cases for us.
Okay,
and he was working with us years ago.
He, meaning Judge Floyd.
Yeah, Judge Floyd, he handled hundreds, if not thousands, of court cases for us through the years.
Up to that point.
It's on record.
Up to that point, did you feel that he was fair?
Very fair. Brother Chappell said he was the only honest judge. And then he even flipped on Brother Chappell.
What happened?
What happened?
Was there a specific incident with Judge Floyd that you could point to that may have triggered something?
You know, I think it's when chiropractic Dr. John Allen Smith essayed me. And I don't think Judge Floyd knew whether or not that had actually occurred. And it's one of those situations where when you completely understand everything in its context, you believe me. And this chiropractor is one of the most concerning and dangerous predators in the entire Eugenia justice story. This man has a waiting room designed like a little boy's bedroom, painted baby blue. He caters to little boys. And he essayed me on April 15th, 2019, right after Sheriff Sims declared the declaration of theft against my mother. Okay, now Judge Floyd then flipped at that time, and it was with that case. He didn't want to hear it, and he just kept dismissing it no matter what evidence I provided. I asked for anything, mediation, help. I filed with the ABI in Huntsville in writing and the FBI in Gadsden in writing, because I could not go to the city and or county because I knew they had ordered and or condoned it and that they were involved in it directly and or indirectly. And I explained that in essence to Captain David Atwell about 3 days ago when he explained to me that I had, in front of the Marshall County Courthouse, created a video whereby I explained that he had been arrested in this, in essence, attempted murder case with a female. But I had not explained that he was exonerated and the allegations against him were a lie. Well, you got to understand that I brought that up to him and he said, I just want you to know that I had absolutely nothing to do with whatever happened between you and John Allen Smith, the chiropractic doctor. And I just want you to know I would never hurt you. You think I have. I said, well, you were on my mother's property after hours, you know, with an employee, ex-employee's office key. And you and she were trying to come in the office after the office was closed and she hadn't worked there in over 2 weeks. You had no warrant. And it appeared, you know, something nefarious. Okay, then the next time Brother Chappell and I saw you at Albertville City and in front of a police captain, you threatened me. And you said, if you don't keep your mouth shut, I'm going to put your ASS in jail. And that was about 5:30 a.m. one morning. It was still dark outside and Brother Chappell was with me and another captain was there. Brother Chappell and I had gone up there about drug activity that we knew about. And we wanted to put a stop to it. We knew that they were trading in narcotics, prescription drugs. So that's why we were up there, and that's why we were up there at 5:30 in the morning. He burst in the meeting uninvited, evidently intimidated or in fear that I was talking about him being caught at my mother's office after hours on January 2nd. Notice, right after New Year's Eve, they thought I would be drunk and hungover. They've tried to make me out to be this pill-popping, partying pervert, and I'm not. I'm absolutely not. And some people are like, well, look, you appear arrogant. I said, are you kidding me? I have created this image for self-protection because I am defending the Constitution and my mother's very life and property. I'm not an arrogant person. Don't judge me. You know, judge not lest ye be judged. But I'm making a point that David Atwell made that point to me, that he had nothing to do with the doctor essaying me within days of him threatening me that he would put me in jail if I didn't keep my mouth shut, evidently about catching him stepping on my mother's land after dark without a warrant. And it appeared he was here to plant evidence. And then after that, you have a state trooper posing as a state trooper, and you find out he's a prison guard with a badge and gun, dressed in a suit and tie without the coat, claiming he's an off-duty state trooper, and he tried to ply me with alcohol. He planted narcotics on me. He planted an illegal firearm on me. And this man right here is a witness. Is all that true, King Sonny? Yes or no? Loud and clear.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. That is the concern for the children of the world. If you don't think you're involved in this and you're an American citizen, then you don't understand the facts of the Obstruction-Of-Justice case. And the point I'm talking about is the fact that I told David Atwell, your position as a police officer is so overwhelmingly powerful that people will attack me and hurt me just by knowing that you are upset with me or that you want me injured in some way. And it was very clear that you threatened me. If you don't keep your mouth shut, I'll put your ASS in jail. And just that threat. And he said, well, I'm not saying that I didn't say that, but I don't remember. Okay, you can say that, but you either suffer from a cognitive impairment, like onset dementia, or you're lying. Now, I didn't say that to him, but that's what I thought. So I just want you to know these people play, I call it the Marshall County Shuffle, but it has killed Brother Chappell. It has almost killed my mother. It's almost killed King Sonny. I know that's another story. My mother and I and King Sonny have all been admitted to the emergency room for stress-related trauma regarding the takedown by the Alabama KKK kleptocracy, and kleptocracy means ruled by thieves. So I know that we're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But understand the value of that conversation with Captain David Atwell. He's the captain at night, evidently. I didn't expect him to approach me, but he did, and it was a good meeting. But I want you to understand the value of it. He wanted to make sure that I understood that he would never hurt me, is what he said, and that he had nothing to do with whatever happened with the chiropractor. And I said, when an officer, through even nonverbal communication, expresses contempt and anger at a civilian, it was unjustified. He had been lied to, evidently, possibly by the girl that got him to come in down here. I don't know. But I'm simply telling the people and you, and as I told him, I'm not saying that you directly ordered me SA'd out of retaliation. But what I'm telling you is you didn't have to. You showed anger toward me. And someone else got it done for you, whether they told you they got it done or not. They did it. And it created PTSD in me. That is permanent. That is permanent. There's no cure for PTSD. There's only treatment.
Another question about...
It's about precedent. That's the point. It's about precedent. This whole story is about precedent. And it's like when Judge Riley issued zero restitution, it created a precedent that my mother was not worthy of justice. And the truth was she had opposed and exposed the Alabama KKK kleptocracy in the Supreme Court of Alabama. They completely and totally and unanimously sided with her with no financial redress, even after she had statutory immunity denied her, granted her, frankly, by George C. Wallace, Governor George C. Wallace. He's the one that issued and enacted statutory immunity in the use of a 10-day bad check notice. Marshall County, Alabama is violating federal law, state law, and that means the law of Alabama that is passed by the legislature and endorsed and thereby passed and enacted by the governor. You've got to understand that is the crux to this case. These judges in Marshall County, and currently it's Riley and Floyd, they are violating the law of the land, law that the Alabama legislature decided would be the law, and decided through the governor and the Alabama Constitution of 1901 that specifically in Section 35 provides protection for the Alabama citizen against tyranny, against abusive government. The founding fathers of Alabama wanted the citizens of Alabama to be protected as much as the United States Constitution wants the American citizens to be protected. And Alabama has a problem in Marshall County. It is criminal tyranny, and they're violating laws passed by the entire legislature of Alabama. They decide who can be protected by law. They have gone way above the law. They're out of bounds. And they're trying to end my mother's life by way of stress and financial ruin and social disgrace. My mother will be exonerated of all these allegations, as will I, and she will be exalted on this earth and restored to her proper standing. She is a godly Southern lady, and they tried to besmirch my mother, and it must stop before they kill her. They're using old KKK tactics and new Nazi warfare tactics against my mother. And it must stop. They want revenge for my mother opposing them and exposing them in the Alabama Supreme Court. When she filed that, they came to destroy her. When she took it out of Marshall County and to Montgomery County, they knew my mother would get justice. And she did, according to law, but without any financial redress, because they claimed qualified immunity and received it, even after they denied my mother the protection of Alabama and United States of America law, and even after they denied my mother statutory immunity granted by the legislature of Alabama in 1972 and enacted by the governor of Alabama, George C. Wallace. He would flip in his grave if he knew what Marshall County had become. And I'll tell you right now what Marshall County is: a radical evil force, an absolute radical evil force. It is a collective force of evil. One man, they'll tell you, oh, that's one bad judge that made a mistake, an unfortunate misstep, and he's now retired. That's not true. It's one man. They sit around one table. I've been in the judge's chamber. I was invited into that sacred area of the courthouse because I accompanied Brother Chappell. I remained in the hall, but I saw Circuit Court Judge Riley disrespect Brother Chappell and put his nose in the air. He had a black thermos, evidently black coffee. I noticed there's one microwave, one coffee pot, one table, and about 6 to 8 chairs around it. You got to understand the point of that. It's the judge's chamber from Marshall County Courthouse, and it's one mind. They are conspiring against the United States. It's actually treason. They are enemies of our nation because they have an utter disregard for the U.S. Constitution and the Alabama Constitution of 1901. The reason you give the year for Alabama is Alabama's had 6 constitutions. Okay, but we go by the latest one, the last one, which is 1901. And I just want you to know that our whole system is based in America and in Alabama on operating. The whole judicial system is based on operating within the confines of the Constitution and through the jury system. When you rig that, you go to the heart of the system. You literally just destroy the system. And Alabama's known for it. You can Google all-white juries in Alabama, an all-white jury tampered verdict in Alabama, or just all-white Alabama jury. When you put in all-white, you realize there's something amiss, and they illegally convicted African Americans for hundreds of years with rigged juries. And all these people have one thing in common: they don't miss a Sunday prayer service. Rank hypocrisy, rank duplicity, they all go into the same radical, frankly, Southern Baptist church. Most of my family are Baptists. They're good faith Baptists. Roy Moore goes to Brother King Sonny's church. Real quick, how you know Roy Moore, King Sonny? That's the Chief Justice of Alabama Supreme Court. Now he's an attorney in Montgomery. He stepped down, but anyway, or was, he wanted the 10 Commandments in the courtroom. It was a separation of church and state thing. But anyway, how do you know him, real quick?
He's the best friend to me, went to school with him, and my brother is married to his oldest sister. And I've been knowing Roy for about 52 years, a straight man.
Thank you for that. And when he took the case, you knew that Eugenia was going to get proper restitution. But what happened is he stepped down, was whatever. What happened to him real quick? Why is he no longer the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court? He was found to be in error regarding wanting the 10 Commandments in his courtroom.
Yeah.
Some people call it grandstanding.
Yeah.
He was sincerely wrong according to the Constitution, but there are those that say he was morally right and he was putting his faith and trust in God above everything. So that's a whole nother subject, but you can't violate the Constitution. You'll lose your power and authority, if you do. But I just want you to know that is a notable distinction. And that's that Roy Moore, and I want to say this about him. Most people, whether it be Donald J. Trump or Kamala Harris or anybody else, when you have extraordinary power and thereby control and influence over other people, you're going to have those that love you and those that absolutely despise you. And it's this, this dichotomy. But Roy Moore, that's a notable distinction. And I want to say this about him. Roy Moore was in school with King Sonny. And one time King Sonny told me that Roy Moore was the only friend that remained after King Sonny lost his eyesight at age 23 in an automobile accident. He lived in the housing projects with his mother. And Roy Moore continued to visit him as a friend and check on him throughout his whole life. And annually, at least once a year, he will go to Roy Moore's home and they will have a barbecue pool party. So he really is family. And that's the former Chief Justice for the Alabama Supreme Court, Roy Moore, and a true friend to King Sonny. And you got to understand, he is the Chief Justice that took the Eugenia Justice case number 1051726. And then our current Chief Justice Tom Parker, adjudicated it, and he did it properly. And it was a unanimous ruling, which is another unusual situation, a notable distinction. And you know what Chief Justice Tom Parker said? He said, the truth is an absolute defense against defamation. And what that means is if the shoe fits, wear it. My mother had simply mailed a 10-day bad check notice to a young man's work because the young man, Greg Fuller, an attorney's son, and his father was later disbarred over stealing approximately $6,500 in escrow money from a client. This was a corrupt attorney. And the young man, Greg Fuller, refused the 10-day letter that was sent to his home. So it was mailed to his work because he had provided his work address. And when the 10-day certified went to Charter Cable, he sued my mother for $5 million with his father, and the judge was clearly in on it. And that was David Evans. He retired in disgrace. Kind of like, well, not kind of like, it's like Pontius Pilate that was ordered into exile by Emperor Tiberius after the crucifixion of Christ Jesus because Pontius Pilate allowed it to happen. He washed his hands of it. Well, he was ordered into exile and disgraced as the what? Governor of Judea. So you got to understand, a lady brought that up to me, and in essence, Emperor Tiberius of the ancient Roman Empire would be synonymous with the current United States President Joe Biden. And Pontius Pilate, in this story, the Eugenia's Justice story, would be synonymous with Alabama Governor Kay Ivey. And Christ, and I'm not saying Brother Chapel was the second coming of Christ. I'm saying that he would be, figuratively speaking, the crucified innocent person. And Brother Chapel went to Governor Kay Ivey's mansion in Montgomery twice and then sent her a certified letter after he had been promised numerous times in its own audio recordings an audience with the governor. And he said, there's an imminent threat to human life, my life. We have already had a bank insider come forward whereby she heard the sheriff directly bragging that he would harm Miss Eugenia and steal her property through business foreclosure to create through business sabotage to create a foreclosure. And this is with the same banker that only has a high school diploma. Yet she's the vice president of the Gunnersville branch of a $33 billion regional bank, Cadence Bank. That sounds like nepotism to me, but it's true. And that's the same banker that gave away Miss Eugenia's operating capital when the Supreme Court ruling was released April 15, 2011. And Steve Marshall's district attorney's office, through Ed Kellett, the assistant district attorney, awarded Miss Eugenia zero restitution. And that is the current senior judge, Riley, that did that. And two attorneys, one in Montgomery, that's Brock Boone at the ACLU, and Cynthia Renee Wright in Huntsville, Alabama. They both said this is not legally possible in Alabama. Specifically, what's not legally possible? Well, you cannot have a thief steal $40,000 cash, provable, by way of stolen business checks, and drive through the drive-thru, and the banker just give away all the money, no questions asked. I don't even need CID. I'm just going to give away all this money. The banker was trying to create unjust foreclosure by giving away all of our operating cash because she controlled the first mortgage. So it was actually $1 million property theft by Marshall County and the banker, Margaret Lacey, from Memphis. Okay, she only has a high school diploma from Memphis, Tennessee, high school. That's all she's got, and she's the vice president. She has repeatedly conspired with Marshall County officials. The first time, in essence, was Steve Marshall. And the second time with Phil Sims, the sheriff. And it has almost killed my mother. And you got to understand, my uncle David Keith Rogers shot himself and killed himself August 7th of 1965 in a similar tragedy. Public hysteria created by the radical religious zealots of Marshall County. Why? They wanted him destroyed for what he had. This is how they kill people for their rights. Cash, cars, land, life. That's what they're after. And if you don't think you're involved, then you just don't understand the facts of the case. Understand, these judges, Riley and Floyd, have signed numerous illegal judgments, and it's in federal court. This case is not over. It must be properly adjudicated by the United States of America, and that's you. That's the people. And that's really all these people fear. They don't fear the law. They don't fear the Lord. They fear the people. You know, we don't advocate violence in any way. We're very, what are we, King Sonny? We're the Leonard Skinner family. My brother's Damon Rogers Johnson, the lead guitarist for Leonard Skinner. That's another notable distinction. And the reason I say that is people have said that to me. Wow, you're what? I'm the Leonard Skinner brother. I don't know no different. I mean, I wasn't telling people that until about how long ago? When did we start? Because a woman said, you need to tell the people who you are.
3 months ago.
Well,
or a little more.
A little more. I'll go with a year. Well, you're right. It's not even a year ago. Just a few months ago, we just started telling people who we are. But we try to keep that on the down low because we don't want people to think we're trying to capitalize on that. We're not. But that means more to people than just about anything else that's happened to us. They care that we are the Leonard Skinner family. It matters. They're attacking the Leonard Skinner mother, and that's very significant. And I asked my mother about a year ago, I said, Mother, you know, most people's favorite Leonard Skinner song is Sweet Home Alabama. What's yours? She said, it's Freebird. You can't have a sweet home if you're not free. So I said, Mother, I appreciate that. You're right. Freebird. See, my mother's not free. She's imprisoned by the white male white supremacists of Marshall County. They want the death of my mother. You know, we've survived a attempted killing. This is a targeted killing by the state of Alabama. And we need you to contact Washington, D.C. FBI and Birmingham FBI. Reference this YouTube channel and tell them we got to get past this. We're better than this as Americans. And now they're killing World War II veterans and Alabama cotton farmers' daughter for their cash, cars, land, and life rights. See, we have the right to not be hindered by the government. That's actually something that Brother Chappell explained to me that just blew my mind. His great-grandfather was Kaiser Wilhelm II, Germany's last emperor. His ancestors resided in the Crown Prince's palace. The prince, as in male, the Crown Prince's palace of Berlin, Germany, for about 250 years. That's Brother Chappell's family. and he swam with the Rockefeller family in the Hudson River from age 5 to 11 because his grandmother became the chief executive housekeeper for John D. Rockefeller. And why am I talking about it? Brother Chappell told this to Mitch Floyd at a Republican rally in Gunnersville, and less than a year later they stressed him to death. And it was Mitch Floyd that threatened Brother Chappell with jail, as well as an illegal $4,000 judgment against Brother Chappell to be paid to the chiropractic, criminally perverted chiropractor John Allen Smith. He is a criminal sex offender because of what he did to me. He should not have access to anybody. He needs his license revoked, and I ask you to also reach out to the chiropractic board in Montgomery. When you read what we filed, you realize this happened. And it happened because the county was aware that Super Target was moving across the property, the highway property from us. Super Target had decided to buy 20 acres right in front of our property. And the officials entered a confidential real estate agreement whereby they could not buy our property at one price knowing it was about to double or triple. They couldn't do that. It was part of their confidentiality agreement. And they also wanted revenge for the Supreme Court ruling. And they also had this new sheriff. You got it? Okay, the sheriff is doing Judge Riley's bidding as well as Judge Floyd. He's also doing Judge Riley's bidding, and that's according to Brother Chappell. Brother Chappell deemed Timothy Francis Riley as the wicked godhead of the modern day KKK. And Brother Chappell said that the Marshall County Courthouse is the headquarters for the Ku Klux Klan. He grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, born in 1926. He stood on the sidewalk and saw Klansmen fill the streets, parade around in this country. Thousands of Klansmen and women paraded in Washington, D.C. throughout Brother Chappell's youth and into his teenage years. He was born at a different time and in a different dimension, so to speak. He said the controversy of his time in New Haven, Connecticut was the few people that owned automobiles in conflict with the majority of the people that traveled by horses and mules. The vehicles were loud, they would backfire, they were fast, and the owners were wealthy and arrogant, and they would come through town and it would create chaos. And that's the world he grew up in. You know, I told him, I said, what was a bag of horse feed? He said, 80 cents for 100 pounds. I said, do you realize a bag of sweet feed is $28 for a 40-pound bag now? He said, only the wealthy have horses now. See, he was a horseman, as am I. I grew up breaking horses, as did he. And that's something else we have in common. He's German, I'm German, my family's German. My mother's name is Rogers, her Hofreister Rogers from Berlin, Germany, and her mother's maiden name is Roden, also Germanic. And that I just want you to understand the racial component to this Eugenia's Justice story, please. It's that my stepfather, John Allred Collins, right at 30 years, 27, 28 years, he taught English to the Spanish children, the Hispanic children of Marshall and DeKalb County. And that created resentment among the white male white supremacists. That's the racial component. Yes, it's white on white violence with us because our attackers are white male white supremacists. Yet we condemn all forms of abuse and they know it. They consider us, like radical liberals. No, we're not. We're financially conservative. We are socially responsible, believe in morality, and frankly, judge not lest ye be judged, but we all live within the confines of the Ten Commandments regarding that. So they've tried to demonize us in every way possible, that we, are abusing children, trafficking in narcotics, domestic terrorists. No, folks, they abused a 10-year-old boy at the Alabama State Park Lodge. Did they, yes or no, King Sonny?
Yes, they did.
All that's filed. You need to look that up, please. You got the sheriff abusing a 10-year-old boy to spite my mother, and it's because he had actually declared the declaration of theft against Miss Eugenia. Okay, in a conspiracy with his banker girlfriend, Margaret Lacey of Cadence Bank, and then his banker boyfriend, and I'm not talking about any kind of nefarious relationship. They're just friends. So Chris Bailey's his boyfriend and Margaret Lacey's his girlfriend. But you got these two bankers conspiring with a lawman, and the lawman begins to attempt to entrap the theft target family into felony entrapment. They want to put us in prison so they can rob us. Folks, this is Nazi Germany stuff, and it's very dangerous. If they get away with this, you're going to have people disappearing in the wee hours of the morning. What you're not going to know is their home quietly drifted into foreclosure at the Marshall County Courthouse, and their vehicle quietly was repossessed by the banker that also foreclosed on the home. You gotta do this one, America. You can't let this go. Federal Judge Brian Turner said, I'm familiar with your case with Judge Axon. That's Federal Judge Axon in case number 421 CV 519 ACA. But let's be clear, verbatim by Federal Judge Brian Turner, he said, Mr. Johnson, I'm familiar with your case with Judge Axon. It's historic. And I said, thank you. I didn't know what else to say. Immediately, when that conversation was over, I Googled the word historic, and just to clarify, I have an idea, but it says specifically important to history or potentially important to history. And if this story gets the light it deserves, it'll be taught in law schools and Western civilization history classes throughout our land, as it should, because no home is safe. No home is safe when you've got this kind of criminal tyranny in play. And again, they don't fear the Lord, no matter what they say. With a prayer on their lips, they don't fear the Lord. Look at what they do, not what they say. It's rank hypocrisy, rank duplicity. They don't fear the law. They have this knowing that's beyond belief that they're above the law. They learned the law to rig the system. And they know what they must rig to rig the system. And it's two things: the jury and have a disregard for the Constitution. When you do that, you can get away with anything. And I won't even say the word, but it starts with M, you can just do anything you want. And don't think for a minute it's not about theft. It can all be summarized in one word. It's theft. They've attacked us again because we stopped them stealing $5 million in an extortion scheme. That's what happened. They don't want you to know that. They fear exposure to the public. And I'm not advocating violence, but it's a Marie Antoinette moment. Just study the French. America's never had the guillotine, but we have had firing squads. I'm not advocating violence. These people need to quietly be sentenced to life without parole in a federal penitentiary. They'll be safe. They can do this, and you can do this. And what is that? They can do life without parole in federal custody. And you can bring Eugenia justice. And we ask that you do that. Okay, any statements, King Sonny? Has everything I've said been true?
Yes.
Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, are you a living ear witness because you're 100% blind?
True.
To just about everything I've said.
Yes.
For example, you weren't with me when I spoke to Sergeant David Atwell,
No.
that's a captain at night. He was a sergeant. He's a captain evidently at night. But all this other that I brought you into, this pure truth testimony, you are a first-hand witness, and you are aware that Sheriff Phil Sims, through a prison guard, attempted to entrap me in very dangerous schemes of narcotics, firearm, and alcohol, and even an uninvited sexual advance by Brian Roberts that impersonated an Alabama state trooper. Yes or no?
Yes.
Boom! Folks, a lady at the Dollar General at High Point, you heard that too. Why don't you? You didn't know that I was going to bring that up. You talk about a public safety hazard. What did the lady say at the High Point Dollar General? And have we said we were going to bring this up in this video today? We've not said anything about bringing this up, Have we or have we not? No.
No.
We've not said we would talk about High Point Dollar General. Just briefly, what did the mother say to us after we were backing out of the Dollar General? And she walked up to the limo and said, "Aren't you the man that does the videos in front of the Marshall County Courthouse for civil rights?"
Yes.
And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, I knew you were. I just wanted to open the conversation with that." Okay, take it from here and do it on this microphone, please, good sir. Just tell the good people of the world what the mother said and speak it. Don't hold nothing back. But if you've got to say something that is vulgar, spell it.
I will. But she came running up to the car as we were backing out, and she asked what the chief just said. And we told her yes. You know, and she seen me too.
And you were in the right front passenger
Yes, I was.
Area of the limousine.
Yes.
And I was in the driver's because I'm the chauffeur for the Leonard Skinner family limousine.
Yes, right.
Go ahead. Now take it. What else
And
did she say?
she
in the
asked
parking
us,
lot?
could we help her? And we said, how? She said, my son's in prison. She said, it's about a 3.5-hour drive from here. But she didn't say which prison.
Right. And
But
she
she
didn't
said-
even have the gas money to go visit him.
Right.
Remember that? She's like,
Yes,
I'm
true.
destitute.
She-
I have no money.
She didn't have the money to go see him, but she said her son was being abused in the federal, the prison.
In the state
In
prison of Alabama.
Yes.
We think it's Montgomery.
Yeah, I believe so.
And
so-
how?
She said that the guard would take the son, like to a doctor's appointment, take him down the road and stop, and there'd be 5 other men there waiting on him. And they would all 5 have sexual abuse this young man. And when they got through, the guard would get him back in the vehicle and take him back to the prison. And she wanted us to see if we could help her, and we kept asking her name, and she would never tell us. But we gave her our card to
She
call
agreed to call
us,
and
but
then
she has not.
She seemed afraid.
Yeah, she was.
She fears retaliation.
Yeah,
She fears that they'll put her in prison.
yeah.
And she said her son had been caught doing what?
Stealing a TV at Walmart.
Walmart where?
She didn't say
Well,
what, but she's
Gunnersville is what
Gunnersville.
we assume.
Yeah, it was Gunnersville Walmart. Yep.
And why am I bringing this part up? This young man can be found, even though she didn't want to tell. She actually told his name, and I didn't write it down.
True,
because
we did
I
not.
was in shock.
Yes.
That because you've got an Alabama prison guard planting firearms or a firearm, narcotics, and trying to ply me with alcohol and executing an uninvited sexual advance against me, impersonating an Alabama state trooper
Yes.
that's off duty.
Yes.
And he was actually trying to put me in state prison so the sheriff could steal $1 million property before Super Target moved in across the highway.
That is true, Chief.
Okay,
But,
and why am I
we-
bringing it up? You've got another Alabama prison guard.
Yep.
And this prison guard is pimping out the prisoner.
Yep.
And he's probably pimping out women too. This is dangerous. And frankly, I am shocked. But this is what it means when Alabama has the single most dangerous prison system in our nation.
Yes.
And Steve Marshall evidently has no concern.
No.
Evidently, he says, I'm not involved.
Yes.
It's time to get involved. But look, you can't reform these white male white supremacists. You have to replace them. And we ask that you elect judges of only the female gender for the next 100 years plus in Marshall County.
But the lady that we were talking to, we told her we would be able to, try to help her shooting the videos. We would do this. Wouldn't cost her nothing. And we would pick her up and take her with us to shoot the video if she wished. But she just started backing up. You could tell she was scared.
She was
was
scared they'll put her in prison.
Yeah, but
and
they
she
can't.
said they have put her husband in prison.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes, they did.
That her husband's been put in prison and her son, she said this. And look, you got to understand something. She said that and you remember what I asked her? I said, would you please, I said, I don't care what your son is doing. but he's not to be abused.
Right.
I don't care what crime he's committed. The state has custody of him, and he's not to be further abused.
Right.
While in their custody, he's to be reformed.
Yes.
It's the Department of Corrections,
Yes.
not the Department of Unusual, what? What do you call it in the Constitution? Cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be the Alabama Department of Cruel and Unusual Punishment. It's supposed to be the Alabama Department of Corrections. But what did I ask her about her son's history as a human? Or do you want me to tell
Do
you?
tell.
Okay, because it, but when I say it, you'll remember. I said, just tell me, has he ever had a methamphetamine problem? You remember that? I said,
Yeah.
has he ever had a meth problem? She said he did get around a bad crowd, and he did have a meth problem. I said, okay, look, a lot of young men in Marshall County have. And until the police get a hold on the drug problem, they're not going to have proper control of the people. Don't
Right.
you agree, Keith?
Yeah.
That the root of all this is all this drug and gun violence that's going on here in America that has spilled over the border. It used to just be primarily in Mexico with the drug cartels, and now you're seeing you got to understand this about that. Please, I know a young man that's just received amnesty because he was kidnapped by the drug cartel. His late model truck was also stolen from him at machine gun, the threat of being killed by machine gun. So they stole a $20,000 truck, and his family had to pay a $20,000 ransom, and then he got amnesty. And what I am bringing that up for is the problem with Mexico's crime is the drug cartel conspires with corrupt officials. And in essence, they can murder somebody, and if a police officer's watching it, they can hand him $5 or $10 grand, and he'll say, I didn't see nothing. You see that? Well, you've got an American version of these criminals conspiring with the officials. And understand, it's 4 groups. The first 2 are state agents, the judges and the lawmen. That's Judge Riley, Judge Floyd, and Phil Sims specifically. Then you've got another group. That's the civilians, but they're corporate executives. That's the bankers and the lawyers. You bring those 4 together, you're going to have people disappearing in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And you're going to have their home going into foreclosure quietly. You're not going to know it.
But we
And then you're going to have their vehicles going into repossession quietly. And this criminal syndicate, this American mafia-style criminal syndicate, has become dangerously greedy. It's beyond cruel, unbridled greed. It is cruel, unbridled death.
Yes.
They kill people's rights, their lives. It's materialism, it's egotism, and it is run amok in Marshall County.
Yes,
And
but-
we need help, or we're going to lose our democracy to these tyrants. And let's be clear. In my opinion, Jefferson Davis should have been tried and convicted of treason after the Civil War. I know that's controversial, but I don't think the Capitol riots of January 6th, 2001 would have happened if Jefferson Davis had been tried and convicted for treason.
Mm-hmm. But Chief,
And let me please make my point, please. Please let me make this point. This is treason, what these people have done. In the Civil War, people said the South's committed treason against our nation. And only about 42 years after Alabama had been admitted in the Union by who? President James Monroe. Okay? But please understand, and under the guise of a school of ministry, President James Monroe was duped. He didn't know it was this radical religious white male, white supremacy stuff. Brother Chappell said it's radical Islamic terrorism with a Christian twist. Well, it drug us into the Civil War, and it's dragging us down again. And just to understand this about white male, white supremacy. When the blacks were freed in 1865, the Ku Klux Klan was formed. When the women received the right to vote, there was a backlash, and the white male white supremacists said, according to God, women are to submit to men, they're not to be involved in politics, and in essence, they're to be domestic slaves. No, they're helpmates and they're equal in spirit to men, and they have rights now, property rights and whatnot. That's why we say only humans of the female gender should be elected to Marshall County high office, and especially the judges, for at least the next 100 years. And the Marshall County Courthouse must be converted to what, King Sonny? Say it.
Well, really, we need all women. That's what we need.
Well, I thought it was going to be a men's shelter for veterans.
Oh, the courthouse, yes,
Yeah, the
yes.
courthouse
Yeah,
needs
yes.
to be a veteran shelter.
Yes.
Like for Brother Chapel.
Yes.
You know, World War II veterans and
Yes.
Vietnam vets and
Yep.
Korean vets. So they're not homeless.
Mhm.
You know, even if it's barracks.
Yeah,
You know, like Army barrack, just shelter.
yeah,
But we need a new courthouse to
Yes.
start afresh, and the feds will help us with that. And we need to convert the current headquarters for the Ku Klux Klan, which is the Marshall County Courthouse. We need to convert that into a veteran shelter.
yes.
Even again, if it's just, we're not talking about a 5-star luxury hotel. We're talking about bare bones, basic shelter, barracks. Even if it's temporary, but no veteran should be homeless in the United States.
Yeah.
So understand my point. After women got the right to vote in 1920, what happened? Blacks got their right to vote in 1965, and we know what happened in Selma and all over Alabama, okay? That's what Sweet Home Alabama song is about, that not all Southern men are backwoods thugs and racist. That's what that song means, that we condemn all forms of abuse and especially criminal tyranny. That's what Ronnie Van Zant was saying, who died in a fiery plane crash 2 months after Elvis Aaron Presley, October 20th, 1977. He wrote those songs, and he was also the lead singer. And understand that after 1965, and look, each one of these is, you've got about a 40 to 60 time span. Our country is going in and out of social conflict and utter disaster like the Civil War. And then the Civil Rights era was actually another civil war. It was a race war. Okay, now we're in a gender war, a culture war, because the LGBTQ plus community got the right to vote for marriage, whether they wanted to marry or not, in 2015. And now we're dealing with another backlash. And just understand that they made homophobic, deadly, slanderous slurs against Brother Chapel because he was a retired Boy Scout master of 20 years in Clearwater, Florida, and he displayed himself with Eagle Scouts and Boy Scouts. Some of those photos are on our videos. But understand, they will target you with anything. They've thrown everything they could at us, and that killed Brother Chapel. Okay? But this is a misogynistic, homophobic civil rights crime. The only reason race is involved is because we have supported the Hispanic community. And that's with my stepfather teaching the Hispanic children English and also going to Hispanic homes and teaching adults free of charge English. So understand that's the only racial component to the Eugenia's Justice story. But I close with this. In the Civil War, people said, we believe the South has committed treason. And it is defined vaguely in the Constitution. So what happened is they clarified that in a 1962 law, Congress did, 1 year after the Civil War started. Clarified what? Treason. And how is it clarified and defined now? Because they wanted a clear understanding of what constitutes treason. To provide aid and comfort to enemies of the United States. And when you understand the Eugenia's Justice story, you understand that in a perfect world, these villains will be convicted of treason and other high crimes
we need to
against
turn
our nation. because of the crimes against innocent civilians and who those innocent civilians are. That's a World War II veteran and an Alabama cotton farmer's daughter, a blind man, a 10-year-old boy at the state park, and a righteous, good man, myself. What am I besides the Leonard Skinner brother? What am I? If my mother is an Alabama cotton farmer's daughter from 1939, no running water, no electricity, working an 88-acre cotton farm, and all her brothers and sisters, 12 of them, all born in a modest 2-bedroom farmhouse that still stands, and the country doctor arrived on a mule or a wagon drawn by a mule, a wooden wagon, and paid with food for delivering those 12 precious children to those German cotton farmers in Alabama. Do you understand that? My mother was born in the farmhouse she was raised in,
Yes.
along with her 12, a total of 12 brothers and sisters. I mean, my goodness, she had 11 brothers and sisters. And they're attacking this godly Southern lady, and then attacking and killing, stressing to death a World War II veteran.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what's it going to take, America, to get you up off the couch?
Well, let's let
We're losing our country.
our
Okay,
friend.
so what am I? You got Brother Chappell, that's a World War II, war disabled, Navy veteran, high priest in the Melchizedek priesthood for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and great-grandson of Kaiser Wilhelm II, and a godly man and a healer. How would you define him, real quick?
Yeah, he was a healer, a great man, a Christian man.
Okay, and then how do you define Miss Eugenia?
A very-
Other than an Alabama cotton farmer's daughter,
A
that's
hard worker, Christian lady.
a hard worker Christian lady.
Yes.
Okay, how do you define the 10-year-old boy that they abused of a sexual nature at the Alabama State Park, Gunnersville?
Well, he was an abused kid there that night in the Gunnersville State Park, which he shouldn't have done.
And why was he abused?
Because if you sitting there, because they was doing it trying to scare you.
And who's they?
Sheriff Phil Sims, David Lee Rothenberry, and this other guy that played David's boyfriend, a baseball player with a baseball bat.
See, they acted like the baseball bat was a phallic symbol, and they acted like Elvis Presley's professional baseball boyfriend.
Yeah.
When they took care of business, when Elvis's wife Priscilla was out of town on Hump Day Wednesday, it was an adult X-rated comedy skit, and it wasn't funny, and it was designed to spite me simply because they know that I appreciate and admire the work and legacy of Elvis Aaron Presley.
Yes.
He received 3 Grammys, all for spiritual music. Those are the only Grammys Elvis received was for his spiritual music. Peace in the Valley album, How Great Thou Art, and what?
So the album Peace in the Valley.
Amazing Grace.
Amazing
You got
Grace, yeah.
Grace, How Great Thou Art, and then Peace in the Valley was the album. We just appreciate Elvis. And they've tried to make the Leonard Skinner family limousine this rolling den of sin. No, we primarily just play Leonard Skinner or Elvis Presley spiritual music in it, and always have.
Yeah.
They've tried to demonize us, dehumanize us, stigmatize us, and villainize us, and ain't nothing stuck because it ain't going to stick. They just want to destroy us, to rob us, and it's because we simply stopped them from robbing us in the Supreme Court. If we hadn't gone to the Supreme Court, Marshall County would have sent badges and guns to illegally seize our property because they had a jury-tampered, all-white Alabama jury. All you got to do is Google that. All-white Alabama jury, illegal verdict. And they would have illegally seized our property with state-issued badges and guns. If we hadn't gone and asked Chief Justice Roy Moore to take our case, they would have robbed us. Okay? They've now retaliated because the Supreme Court did the right thing, and it's their ruling. One man said this about that. They're mad at you, and it wasn't even your ruling. I said, you got it. It wasn't my ruling. It wasn't my ruling. That's the unanimous Supreme Court. Take it up with Chief Justice Tom Parker. He adjudicated it. Take it up with Chief Justice Roy Moore. He chose to take the case. You got to understand the Supreme Court. They receive 3,000 or 4,000 cases a year and only adjudicate a few, relative few, because they micromanage every element of that case. And I want to say one thing about that. I remember, because it was a defamation case, the Supreme Court was so thorough, they even said no false information was found on the envelope, the 10-day notice, or even the return address. And then they quoted First Credit Finance Corporation, 10745 US 431, Albertville, Alabama, 35950 USA. No, there's no false information there. If you don't know what that means, the Supreme Court is saying Marshall County got caught robbing a finance company.
Chief, let's let our friend finish up his
claiming that Eugenia R. Collins deserved to lose everything and be discredited to ever being licensed with the FDIC as a money services business because she was an unscrupulous finance company owner. Do you understand what I just said? The Supreme Court said they sued her for $5 million for defamation. They called her a liar. They are liars calling her a liar. Not even the return address had any false information in it. Do y'all get that? Do y'all all get the thoroughness of the Supreme Court? And they are making a point there that even the return address has no false information in it, nor the 10-day certified notice. And if you don't know what that means, it means the Supreme Court of Alabama told Alabama, you went too far on this one, cut it out. But they didn't stop. They came back to steal the brick and mortar finance company home office that the Supreme Court stopped them in a $5 million cash extortion scheme in. It's like robbing the bank to steal the cash out of the vault, and it backfires on you. You wait 8 years, and then you are caught in a real estate scheme trying to steal the actual bank building, parking lot, and mailbox, and building itself. If we can't have the cash out of the vault, we will win in the end by stealing the dirt, the parking lot, the building, the windows, the doors. We're gonna get the bank if we can't get the bank's cash. You get it? And because it was owned and is owned 100% by a female, they believed they had the God-given right, and they believe they do to this day.
Yes.
Okay, now what? You described the young man, the little 10-year-old boy. You described Brother Chappell. You described Eugenia. Describe yourself as other than a blind man, or the fact that you. What are you? What is your knowingness, so to speak, of yourself?
Well, I know everything that went on, because I'm.
You're a witness.
Okay,
witness, what else? How do you describe yourself?
Well, I tell the truth is what I do, because that's what God put me on this earth to do. And I walk with Him and I talk with Him because I know there is a God and I believe in Him. So that's what you're supposed to do. You believe in Him and know that, well, there is one. You walk with Him and you talk with Him and walk in His footprints.
So could you say, and I know this is what you're saying, but in a simple way, that you know what you are and you know who you are?
Yeah.
And that is a child of God.
Yes.
And you have received power with authority from the Son, Christ Jesus, through His atonement.
Yes.
And you know this, and you fear and love the Lord, and always speak the truth.
Right.
So what's the simplest way of saying that? That you're just a good Christian man?
Yes. Okay. God's children.
You're a child of God. You're one of God's children. And that nobody's better than anybody else here on earth. See, that's something else. They try to make us out to be these radical liberals. No, we're not. We just know that no one's better than anybody else here on earth. This white supremacy has got to stop, because in essence they say, you can't do everything I can do because I'm privileged, because I'm white, and I live in Alabama. That's got to stop. It's collective criminally insane, and it's killing people because it's actually just a theft scheme. They steal people's cash, cars, land, property. Somebody asked, what's the difference in land and property? Property is land with buildings on it, okay? And they just steal people's lives and their rights. And they believe they're above the law. Put these people in prison. Put the walk of shame on the sheriff.
Yes.
What else you have to say? Well, how do you describe me? Let's close with that. We covered
Well, a very Christian man. You tell the truth and you walk with God too. You're one of God's children.
And how long have you known me?
25 years.
Look at that. This man knows. Have we not been together, I mean, all over the South? Like
Yes.
Memphis and Tennessee and
Mhm.
Georgia, Mississippi.
Yeah.
We traveled the South together.
Yeah.
You know me, and when we have stayed overnight, we get separate rooms.
You're right.
And Brian Roberts wanted to get a room with me and one bed.
Yes.
And that was odd.
I told him no, that wasn't happening. That he would not. You would not do that.
He was on a mission
Yes.
to try to smear me. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And he was a liar and an imposter. And he claimed he was a what?
A state trooper when he was just a prison guard's all he was.
Look at that. A state trooper. And look at this. How did he prove to us he was a state trooper? At restaurants.
With his badge.
And what else would he do at restaurants when we would pay, or when I would pay? He would do what? Like at Western Sizzling Fort Payne.
Oh, he
would tell them that we deserved a discount. Why?
because he was a state trooper.
So we would receive how much off?
A great deal.
How much? Do you recall?
No, not
Okay,
even.
I paid for it. It was 10% off.
Yeah.
He would tell the manager that he's an Alabama state trooper, off duty, badge and gun. He'd show his badge. He'd flash the badge. Respect the badge, folks. This is a dangerous civil rights crime.
Yes.
The Marshall County Courthouse is a civil rights disaster area because of all the illegal judgments that have been signed down there. And then the Monroe compound right here at 10745 US 431, Albertville, Alabama 35950 USA is also a federal criminal civil rights disaster area because of the crimes that have been committed and the killing of Brother Chapel here.
Yes.
And the near killing of me. Our building has been set on fire 8 times in the past 2 years. This is how they do it. They try to, it's domestic terror. That's what this is. This is domestic terror. So, King Sonny, any other statements regarding, statements or questions?
No. We just need to let our young man here ask his questions to finish up here with us.
Okay.
That's what we need to do.
Okay, we're going to do that now.
I just want to thank you for your pure truth testimony, and I would also like to take the moment here. Robert Ross, is that right? Royce, like Rolls Royce.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you for allowing me to video it. And when we pulled up in the limousine, I said to King Sonny, you know, well, tell him, what did I say, King Sonny? Just tell him real quick. What did I say? Here.
Say it.
Well, when we pulled up here, you know, you said we were waiting on a young man from, to Georgia to come and talk to us and interview us.
Yeah, but what did I say about me videoing? And
Well,
what
you
did
said you said, reckon on or two, and I said I wouldn't think so.
No, see, look, but what I'm saying is Roy said,
No problem. What happened is we pulled up in the long black Cadillac limousine, and Mr. Royce pulled up shortly thereafter. I mean, within 3 minutes, maybe 5. And I said, you know what, King Sonny, I'd love to videotape this, but I don't know about asking him. And he said, I wouldn't. I'd just let that go. You know, this is his interview. I said, okay. Well, I asked him. He said, sure, turn it on. Aren't you glad we turned it on, King Sonny? Mm-hmm. Here, you're not on mic. We're closing it out. But are you glad we turned on the video? Yes, here's the mic.
Yes, I'm very glad we got the interview, to record this.
on video.
On video.
Because it's turned into something we didn't expect.
But if he's got any more questions, let him ask us and we'll try to answer it the best we
Because
can.
I know what you want.
I brought it up where Fort Payne,
No.
Western Sizzling, Boaz, is that not what you're wanting to do?
We'll go to eventually.
Well, that's what he's wanting to do, is go to Western
Not
System.
really.
Where do you want to go?
Bathroom.
Okay, let me do that.
Well, just go ahead and finish.
Hey, if you've got to go, I'll lead you over there to the restroom and turn you loose at the door.
We'll do
Okay.
an interview.
Okay, so
He's come a long
let's
way.
close it out. Whatever. I don't have a problem with the time. I'm fighting for my mother, and it's not a problem for me when you're fighting for your mother's life. So I'm at your mercy, and I'm here to serve the Lord and the truth and the Spirit. And let me just say this about the Spirit, because I said this to actually Alton Paget, that's my father's age, nearly 90, like 86 years old, 87 on my father and 86 on Alton Paget. And he did a video with us yesterday at his farm. But anyway, a young man about 12 years old came up to me about 2 years ago, and he said this. And the reason I say it, it's about misogyny. Women must be respected all the time. And this young man said, Brother Johnson, he knew I was in the church, and he said, Brother Johnson, you know the Holy Ghost is a woman. And I said, I've never thought of it. Why do you say that? And he said, well, everybody knows you can't have a baby without a woman. And Heavenly Father is God, and Christ Jesus is his Son, and Mother Mary was the earthly mother to Christ Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is the heavenly mother of Christ Jesus. It's Father, Mother, and Son. Heavenly Father, Holy Ghost, or Holy Spirit, either one you're comfortable with, and the Son of God. I said, I'll take that. I like that. Yeah, I agree with that. I've never thought of it, but I like that. I believe that. I just needed to be aware of it. That's what this story is about. That it doesn't matter, really, not just in words, in deeds. It doesn't matter what your race is, your age is, your nationality, or your religion, or your gender, or your marital status. Brother Chappell said they attack you because you don't have a witness. You're not married. I said, Brother Chappell, are people really that wicked? And he said, yes. Never underestimate an old man. Brother Chappell was nearly 100. He was 3 months shy of 96 when he had a massive heart attack. And this is after attorney Jimmy Carnes mocked him in court. And I've detailed that in federal court, case number 423 CV 349 CLM. Never underestimate an old man. And Brother Chappell said some very powerful quotes regarding Eugenia's justice. I'll say just two and turn the mic over to Mr. Royce. Number one, I'm going to give you three. They can't do this on a federal level. They just can't do it on a federal level. They beg for guidance. And to him, they were all young men. He's nearly 100, and they're in their 50s and 60s. He saw them as young men that begged for guidance. He said the Supreme Court issued a stern spanking, a scathing rebuke, and they didn't like it. And instead of improving the county, they set out to destroy the female finance company owner that they had targeted for theft, deeming her unworthy of justice. So they really just revealed themselves to be the real diabolical, dangerous, criminal thieves that they are. And they will kill people for their rights and their property and their lives. They're very dangerous. I don't know of anything more dangerous than a dangerous criminal with qualified immunity. That's why a dirty cop or a child abuser is the most reviled criminal all over the world. They don't fare well in prison. And that's because judges and cops have qualified immunity. And when they are hiding behind the badge, it's like hiding behind the Lord. They're hiding behind the Lord, and they're hiding behind the law to commit violent crime. And they're killing people. They're trying to end my mother's life through stress. And King Sonny is gonna, hey, if you'll just stop right there, he has no idea that he's facing a couch. He's trying to get to the restroom. So let me lead him to the restroom door. Folks, it's not easy being blind. And these people abused a blind man, and that's well documented in videos. They have no respect for human dignity. They have lost their humanity, not just their credibility. And I'm referring to the villains in the Eugena's Justice, civil rights, criminal disaster. Here we go. King Sonny. This way, you got two couches here, and you'll turn left.
And have it over to the left.
It's okay. You go through one door. I got it. Go right through that door. One more door. No need in turning the lights on, folks. It's lights off for him 24/7. And you know something that people have said to me numerous times in my 25 years of knowing him, and especially women, they say, he gets around so well, I don't think he's completely blind. And I think they're just trying to be funny, because what the women, and it's just been about 3, I go, why would you say that? And they say, well, I think he says he's blind so that these women don't really know that he can see them. I said, that's insane. You can see and you're calling him a liar? He's blind, I promise you. It's double jet black. His nerves to his eyeballs was severed. His skull crushed in at age 23 in a very bad car accident. He was almost killed. He'll never see again until he reaches heaven. And he has that knowing and that relief, that peace, and that is that his sight will be restored in heaven. And that's what keeps him going. The hope of heaven. So, Robert Royce, you just take it whatever you want to ask. I know this has taken a little bit of another turn here and there, but you know, it's all the truth, and the time is 1:27. And we did an 1.5-hour video in Pinson yesterday with 4 family friends that have known me for around 2 decades, you know, and the King Sonny. The reason they call him King Sonny, his name is Charles Keith Barksdale. When he became blind, people nicknamed him Sonny because he has such a optimistic disposition and very positive. He's a very sociable person. And when people began to find out that he is literally one of 3 original Elvis Aaron Presley Memphis Mafia members, because he met and interacted with Elvis Aaron Presley in the 70s as a truck driver in Las Vegas. And then in Birmingham at the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center, Elvis Presley's chief bodyguard, Sonny West, inducted him in a formal and dignified ceremony into the original Elvis Aaron Presley Memphis Mafia. So when he was then renamed King Sonny, that's a nod to the king of rock and roll. And if you notice, his glasses say TCB on it, and his crucifix, he has a fascination with Elvis. And he primarily listens to Elvis. How many songs? He primarily listens to Elvis music. And we've been to Graceland many times, haven't we, King Sonny?
Oh, yes.
Okay, come on forward. So, you know, once he
went to the restroom, he can make it back out. But he's 100% blind, and he's perfectly okay. Go a little bit to the left, and there's your chair. To the left. To your left. To your left.
No.
To your left, yes. To your left. Go left 2 feet.
That way?
Yes, sir.
That's my right.
I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. Look, I'm tired. Forgive me. Forgive me, please.
Straight ahead, right.
It's my left, your right. I misspoke.
We're backwards.
I misspoke on that.
Thank you,
I
Tom.
consider that an unfortunate misstep. Fist bump on that.
Don't worry
But
about
look,
it.
notice I didn't want you to keep going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
yeah,
appreciate
to
that.
your left. Okay, you can tell I need to eat. I've not eaten anything all day.
Join the crowd.
I'm looking forward to Western sizzling, but whatever. I don't have to eat. I can just eat
And
by
you got
8
any more
o'clock.
questions you want to
Hey, look, his only concern was the bank by 5, and it's 3:46. Does that give you a little bit of relief there? Yeah, it's 3:46, and the bank closes at 5, because as we were walking through, he said, all I need to do is the bank. And I said, okay, all I need to do is the bank. Well, we've got an hour and 15 minutes to do the bank. And the bank is about 3.5 miles away, so no worries.
All right.
No worries.
I can get that
I'll get it.
memo.
Just loud and clear
I'll
on
get
the
going.
mouth. You have to go the mic close.
Yeah, I'll get going here.
It's okay.
For the people viewing throughout Georgia and Alabama, I do a lot of checking on governments, small rural governments, and they all have one thing in common: is there's a lot of questionable activity that they engage in.
It's about a corrupt system.
It's very corrupt.
Yes.
Most, not all, but most of them are in it for themselves. They violate the city charters, city ordinances, state laws, and everything else they want to do, and federal law too, for mostly personal financial gain.
Yeah, materialism, egotism, and it's a racket. If I may just say one quick thing, and I promise you it won't be a minute. Recently, a high-powered journalist was referring to politicians in Washington, D.C. and throughout our country, and he made a very important point. He said about 30 years ago, many of our elected officials lived modestly and even in the same communities with the common folk. They now have these $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 homes. And once they got those homes, they then wanted, these are his words, not mine, they wanted the best appliances. They want the big $2,000 stainless steel refrigerator. They want the hot tub. Then they want the bass boat and the pontoon boat. And then it has compromised the integrity of our government.
It
And
has,
that's
but-
why, and now they're living like kings, and they're no longer a public servant. They're a king, and now they're bending the rules to maintain this lavish lifestyle. And
But
he
how do
said
they
it's
do it? I'm
It's
gonna tell you.
materialism, and they do it through crime.
They do it this way. It's very common for anybody watching. Look at your local politicians. Many of them have LLCs on the side.
Interesting.
Many of them have nonprofit organizations on the side. And what do? Builders, developers, and others, they can legally donate to the nonprofit. And the president, the officers can take a salary from a nonprofit. Now that definitely will wash the money through there. Now if they get caught, it's a federal violation, but it's very hard to catch them. They do purchases through LLCs where the politician is an officer of the LLC. So that's one way of laundering the money through into their pockets. Sometimes.
Wow. I want to say one thing on that, please. I remember reading an article that said, in essence, if you've got money to donate to a charity, there's only one. And that's the Salvation Army. And that's because the CEO lives, in essence, in a $100,000 home that is owned by the Salvation Army. And he's just allowed to live there. And then his salary is like maybe $200,000 or $300,000 a year. All these other charities, United Way, Red Cross, all of them, they're paid $1 and $2 and $3 million a year of donation money. So I'm simply saying once you have this nonprofit, they say, well, we have payroll. We have to pay the administrative staff. Well, then we're going to pay 90% of all the donations we take in to the CEO. It's no longer a nonprofit, it's a racket. And now you see that business model, that structure of financing and that structure of profiting in the political arena. That's what
it becomes a criminal organization.
It becomes a criminal organization.
That's
Yeah.
the way a lot of them, not all of them, but there's a lot of them.
And let me just say this, they're violating the spirit of the law and trying to barely operate within the letter of the law, yet they're taking chances that if the feds look into it, somebody's going to federal prison. But they are skirting the letter of the law, and they are absolutely violating the spirit of the law. Yeah. But I only donate to the Salvation Army because of that article.
Yeah, and one of the issues they do at the local level is they know that the racket's strong. They have either the local police or the sheriff's department won't touch them. A lot of times, if you have like the state investigators, they don't touch them either. They're too busy, or they're politically connected, or they have to have permission from a politician to do certain investigations.
Yeah, and look at our Attorney General. He was appointed by a criminal sex offender, Governor Robert Bentley, and soon after he signed a lie to the Alabama State Bar saying he had no knowledge or recollection of the District Attorney's Office in Marshall County awarding zero restitution in a $40,000 provable theft, whereby Eugene R. Collins received zero restitution shortly after the Supreme Court ruling was released. And it was actually $1 million property theft scheme where they were trying to force foreclosure by sabotage. He says, I have no knowledge or recollection. And then he's photographed in a public setting giving a speech with a t-shirt that says, I love my church. Look at that rank hypocrisy. And that he's posted that photo of himself. I love my church. Well, what about the lie against Miss Eugenia to the Alabama State Bar on Attorney General letterhead in 2020? I think it's February 19th, 2020.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier, and I have personally came across this on many, many occasions.
Yeah, that got my mother targeted, and it has almost killed her, and it ended the life by way of targeting Brother Chappell. I mean, that's dangerous.
But how these people will...
Because it's saying no justice for this person. Okay?
It's how a lot of these people come together is, especially I've seen in the South, is they play on the church.
They hide behind the Lord. That's the way people say that here. How do you say it, King Sonny?
That's it.
They hide behind the Lord. That's the
common.
way people communicate that.
It's very common.
It's hypocrisy. It's rank hypocrisy and rank duplicity.
And it goes right into classism. Classism is very important because they think that they are much better than everyone else. And they think they deserve more than everyone.
Privilege. They believe they're privileged because they're white. And it's really a state of insanity. Because nobody's better than anyone else here on earth.
I'll give you an example. There's a mayor in Georgia. He calls himself the Great White Hunter. He goes on social media with an admitted racist. And he's been asked numerous times, hey, if you made a mistake going on social media, apologize to the people. He refuses to apologize for sharing social media with an admitted racist.
Wow. And if I may, I was at Lowe's and a young man that helped me with some plumbing issues, he said this, in essence, I'm familiar with your story, Miss Eugenia's Justice. And I want to recommend a song. It's by DC Talk. This is what he said. What if I stumble? And so I pulled up the song on YouTube when I got in the vehicle, the limo, and it displayed a quote before the song. I'm just going to read that quote because it's about hypocrisy, and that's what this young man is saying. These young people get this. This guy's probably 28 years old, and he gets it, and he realizes that if something's not done quick, he'll have no country. He'll be a slave.
Our kids won't have nothing.
Yeah. So anyway, just this quote says, the greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Christ Jesus with their lips, then walk out the door and deny him by their lifestyle. That is what an unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable. It's a level of rank hypocrisy that just shocks the conscience, that these people are making such a mockery of the Lord, and the Lord will not be mocked. The Bible says that. The Bible says this. How dare you trust your own cleverness? The Lord will not be mocked. You will not outthink the Lord. You better live right, and you better love and fear the Lord, because the Lord will not be mocked. And these people mock the Lord. They mock the law. And what else do they mock? They mock the people that elected them. That's who they mock. And that's who they really fear. They don't fear the feds. They don't fear the Lord. They fear the people turning on them, just like Marie Antoinette. When the people turned on Marie Antoinette, and it's these words, let them eat cake. You got to understand the short version of that. The people of France were starving. They didn't even have porridge. And what is porridge? Dry oats, as in oatmeal that's just dry. And they didn't even have dry oats, even dirty water to put in dry oats to eat. They were starving to death in France. And a man said to Marie Antoinette, the people are starving in the street, and she's living this elaborate lifestyle. And she's got all these decorative cakes, gourmet cakes, decoratively made, all this gourmet food. And she laughingly says, oh, let them eat cake. Well, when the public heard that arrogance and that she was just criminally insane, tyranny knows no restraint. What did they say about Queen Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, King Sonny? Say it.
Off with her head.
Off with her head. And she went to the guillotine. So anyway, the public, they don't put up with it. Look, the world, which is the public, they demand felonious leaders fallen. They demand, ultimately, their leaders be honorable and courageous. And felonious leaders fallen. In other words, the public, the world demands wicked leaders brought down, just like Adolf Hitler and other leaders. They run for a while. Hitler just had a 12-year run, folks. It was a short run. Alabama wants to emulate him in all this glory. It was not good. You know, he was a lunatic. He was a drug-addicted lunatic, diabolical psychopath. And he only had a 12-year run. The devil runs on short term, and then he's brought down. Don't let them bring our democracy to ruin.
In closing, in helping here, I got to start at the local level and get a good understanding of what's going on. So I'm kind of looking for anybody out there who also has had contact with Judge Mitch Floyd and has experienced any kind of discrimination or behavior that was abnormal for a judge to display. I would like to...
If I may,
Yes.
He was caught, and it can be verified, and it was several years ago now, but he was caught stealing palm trees, and I believe it's in Gulf Shores. And Brother Chappell took real issue with that because evidently he tried to play dumb, and it was lawn care, landscaping, palm trees. And Brother Chappell said, you know, that he did the lawn care and landscaping for John Travolta and his next door neighbor and friend, Christy Alley, in Clearwater, Florida, because Brother Chappell owned a plant nursery and he provided plants for the Lawn and Garden Center to Sam Walton back in the 60s. Look at the interaction Brother Chappell had. But he said those palm trees, he said, I can remember selling them even in the 80s for $2,500 a piece. Well, Mitch Floyd was caught stealing one or more palm trees And it was because evidently, this is what I've heard, but it could be looked into, okay? But they found out he was in law school, and the charges were either reduced or dropped. And that really should be looked into, because I believe he may have some type of a character flaw. Some people have impulse disorders, and I have a degree from Auburn, and I can remember in psychology, and I can remember the professor one time saying a gambling addict is not only not curable, but it's an inherited trait. And in essence, I said, Professor, are you telling me that humans are born with the propensity to play blackjack and poker? I don't think you're telling me that, are you? He said, not at all. They're born with an impulse disorder where they can't stop themselves. And that can bleed over into, for example, sex, drugs, money, which is gambling or spendthrift. And then I add two more. He ended there, sex, drugs, and money. Well, I add radical ideologies, whether that's political, religious, whatever, and revenge. And if you can't control your urges, you can't control your impulse disorder. If you have an impulse disorder, and that comes from fetal alcohol syndrome, if your family or your ancestors are alcoholics, you can have these impulse disorders. Or if you are if there's been inbreeding in your family. And I'm not saying any of that applies to Judge Mitch Floyd. I'm simply saying that it has been confirmed that he was caught, and it's my understanding, in a felony crime of theft several years ago. And if he hadn't been in law school, he would have probably gone to prison. But it was told to me that it was expensive landscaping plants. You know, like where a landscaping company left some palm trees out overnight to be planted the next day with a backhoe. Well, he backs up a truck, evidently, whatever type of vehicle. He loads up these expensive palm trees, either in Gulf Shores or somewhere there near the coast. And he was caught and arrested. And frankly, he has told this story in part because I overheard it. And then I have asked people, what's that about? And they said, oh, if he hadn't been in law school, he would have gone to prison. And then Brother Chappell said, look, those palm trees are like $2,500 a piece. In the 80s, they're probably $4 or $5 grand now. Mm-hmm. How many palm trees did he steal from the landscaping company? And again, I don't know what kind of plant it was or what they were valued at, but I overheard him saying that he was arrested. And if I remember correctly, it was not lawn care equipment. It was lawn care landscape plants that was left out evidently overnight. And he's going to play dumb and say what? What would he say, King Sonny?
He would play dumb, definitely, and say, I didn't do it.
Well, if they caught him red-handed, what did we say?
Well,
I thought it was what?
free.
Free, as in what? Maybe trash.
Yeah.
That was out near the road. I figured it was free.
Yeah.
I figured it was debris, free debris. No. Let me tell you what the feds say to that. You knew or should have known, turn around, we're handcuffing you. Gonna cuff you and what, King Sonny?
Take you into jail.
Yeah, okay, lean over, you're out of the camera there, King Sonny. Just lean over toward the table and we'll close it out, but you need to be in the video. And if we could, just gather our thoughts whenever we're ready. We're gonna at least do taps unless King Sonny wants another closing song,
No,
choices.
No, taps will be fine.
Just taps,
Yeah.
okay. Any other statements, questions,
just,
anything at all? I've got the time.
Thank you for sitting down with me.
He said, thank you for sitting down with me. And the reason I grabbed the mic is I've had people say, look, I could hear you, but my volume was wide open and the other two people I couldn't hear, and I just quit watching it. Why? Because I couldn't hear the other two people. You got a problem with your audio. It's not my phone, it's your audio. And I said, well, maybe you need a Bluetooth external speaker. And he said, well, maybe you need a microphone all the time. I said, well, you're probably right. So we're trying to get the word out loud and clear, okay? But I think you've heard this one, don't you, King Sonny?
Mm-hmm.
Does this one come through loud and clear?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, just again, thank you for sitting down with me. And
I'm the voice of Eugenia. Why do I say that? My brother wrote a song, The Voice of Eugenia. Damon Rogers Johnson wrote The Voice of Eugenia. And it's about this, folks. It's not as glamorous as you think.
I promise you, my brother, being the lead guitarist of Leonard Skinner, would tell you that I always speak the truth. He loves me. I miss my brother. He's on tour. But he would also tell you it ain't easy being a famous rock star. It's a lot of hard work. And all the public sees is what's on stage. But it's a lot of work. No, he doesn't have to set up equipment or any of that. They've got roadies, and it's a big multi-million-dollar business, the Leonard Skinner Band. And all you got to do is a little bit of math. They sold out Atlanta recently. They sold out the Huntsville Civic Center and probably everywhere else they play in. They've got a 200-venue tour. But when we went, King Sonny and I went over and saw Leonard Skinner at Huntsville, you know, full backstage passes and all that. But anyway, all you got to do is realize that the cheapest seats there were basically $100 a piece, and some of them were $500 and $600. And you just go with 25,000 seats times what you want to even it out at, 200 a seat. That's real easy. I wouldn't even need a calculator for that. That's $5 million for one show. Did you hear that, King Sonny? If you don't think that's big money, maybe it's not. Maybe you're Elon Musk and it's not a lot of money. But just understand that those are big dollars to most people. And they've got 200 concert venues. Money's not a problem for Leonard Skinner because they assist the world to remove pain and suffering, and they do a real good job. The world loves Leonard Skinner. It's the greatest Southern rock band of all time. The greatest rock and roll band of all time is a toss-up, depending on how you do the math, and that would either be Led Zeppelin or the Beatles. And again, it depends on if you look at album sales and different ways of calculating that. But there's no dispute the greatest Southern rock band of all time on planet Earth is Leonard Skinner. That's the greatest Southern rock band of all time. And read the lyrics to the song, Things Going On. It's talking about political corruption, and the message is clear that the politicians really don't care about the common folk. It's a racket.
Any songs or just taps? It's up to y'all. We always close with taps.
Taps would be great.
Unless okay.
You said absolutely what?
Taps.
Absolutely taps. Okay, we're going to do taps. We had a police officer recently say, I watch all your videos and I know when they're at the end because you always play taps, and it makes me think of my grandfather that was a World War II veteran. I said, yes, sir, we'll always play taps. I like that Lee Greenwood, what's the name of that song, King Sonny? I know it, I'm asking if you do.
God bless the USA.
You got it. But we'll just pass on it today. Pass on Whitney Houston's Star Spangled Banner too.
Well, Mr. Royce?
Taps.
Just go with taps. Here we go.
Taps, okay.
Salute the boot and always respect the badge and the U.S. Constitution. Our U.S. military has spent tremendous, unmeasurable blood and treasure defending the Constitution. Long live the United States. God save the United States.